Les Dawson is a legend in British comedy. He brought laughter to the living rooms of Britain for 25 years.
I said, have you got anything cheaper in this shop? He said, yes, but you're wearing it.
He seemed an overnight success, but where did he come from? And what made his comedy so special?
It's very sophisticated, you know what I mean? It's the finest kind of comedy.
The rays of the hot August sun were filtering through the stained glass windows of the medieval chapel, highlighting the mellow antiquity of the Saxon altar and glinting on her father's rifle.
If you can get tap dancers at 14 and a half stone to join me, by all means.
Of course, his brand of humour was completely unique.
What's up?
He pretty much mastered every single form of comedy.
It's quite easy to play the piano badly and not be funny. Ding, ding.
He's just got the iconic face. He's the seaside postcard face. I think some of us younger people did muddle him up with John Prescott for a while.
He was a master of the mother-in-law jokes.
He used to prowl around the house like a sort of bronchial warthog, the face like a bag of spanners.
To introduce you to Les Dawson.
I'd like to play the piano for you. I was going to play you a little something from Mozart, but I won't because he never plays any of mine. So instead, if I may, I'd like to play for you a very moving composition written by Beethoven's eldest brother, Sid, as he lay tragically dying. Thank you.
It's 1967, and a new comedy star is born. Les Dawson seemed an overnight success, but at the age of 38, he had served his time. Les Dawson was born in 1931. He had a hard upbringing in Collyhurst in Manchester. The experience gave him a connection with countless families and a reservoir of comedy material that would last a lifetime.
The hardy folk who lived in this working-class enclave of Manchester were the very salt of the earth. Proud people, they all had one possession they shared: poverty.
I would say that poverty informed everything. There were 7 of them in the house when he was first brought up. And I think that then led through to many, many things. Even the mother-in-law thing, that comes as a result of that, with the working classes living with the mother-in-law and father-in-law sometimes, but often just the mother-in-law because they'd outlived the father-in-law. It all stems from a lack of finance.
He was an autodidact, as they say. He was self-educated, but he had a great deal of information and he processed it very, very intelligently. I don't want to sound condescending, but he was a very smart guy.
Young Les grew up with a fascination for words and a flair for music, talents that would eventually help make him a household name for millions of TV viewers, but not skills that count for much on the streets of Collyhurst.
To some degree, he had to shield it from his mates. And he said once, if you're walking around Collyhurst with a volume of T.S. Eliot in your pocket, you'd be thought to be a sissy.
I used to box because all the family was sporting. My father used to put the shot. He was in line for the Olympics till they saw when he was putting it. But I used to box like all the kids did down there, and I wasn't very good. In fact, I was carried out the ring so often I'd handle some of my shorts.
Les's first ambition was to be a writer. But as he settled into family life, he took any job to make ends meet. All the time working up an act on the stages of the working man's clubs in the north of England. Something that did command respect, if not much money. It was a time when music and entertainment were being revolutionised in London. A new style of comedy was on the horizon, but even they admired the tradition of the northern comics.
And I'll tell you the interesting fact about the Arab. The interesting fact about the Arab is he can go for a whole year. He can go for a whole year on 1 grain of rice.
Peter Cook made a huge impact in the late 50s.
A whole year on 1 grain of rice?
No.
And after Peter, that tradition began to develop. And a lot of people in 63 finished up in show business because they were in the Footlights Revue. And we all had an enormous affection for music hall. We loved the medium, and we thought there were some extraordinarily funny and talented people working in music hall. And of course, latterly, working in the working men's clubs, which were almost a northern phenomenon. And a lot of the work, like work everywhere, was pretty cliche, but the best work was absolutely wonderful.
Les had become well known on the club circuit and even made overtures to the BBC, emphasising not his comic, but his musical ability.
He wrote for his first audition at the BBC in Manchester in 1953. And he had his first audition in 1954. And the audition slip says, badly out of tune, no use for broadcasting. Because at that time he was more a singer and a comedian than a comedian. And he sang basically straight.
Les's career was going nowhere. He'd been tried out on regional television in 1962 on the long-lost Saturday Bandbox, but in 1967 he was still selling vacuum cleaners. His wife Meg had had enough. Les had one last chance.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Opportunity Knocks.
If you said to a professional, why don't you go on Opportunity Knocks, they would probably hit you, which is exactly what Meg said to Les at that time, You've got so far, you can get no further. You've got to move on. And the only way you're going to move on is if you do this show, Opportunity Knocks, and I fill the format. And he was very upset about that.
Welcome to Opportunity Knocks, your talent show, the program in which you make the stars and in which every one of the artists appearing have the professional backing of Bob Sharples and the orchestra. Let's meet Bob and the boys here this afternoon.
A lot of them didn't want their acts on television. Because then it was gone. People had seen it. And I remember seeing a wonderfully funny guy at the Wakefield Club when Python was shooting near Wakefield. He was absolutely wonderful, and we met him afterwards. He didn't want to go anywhere near television because then he'd blown his act.
Remember, it is your vote that can indeed send them forward not just to next week's show, but to fame and fortune in this strange old business called show business.
Unfortunately, the recording of Les on Opportunity Knocks has not survived. We know he was a hit with the audience, although he didn't win the postcard vote of the public. But it was enough to kickstart his television career.
And here he is tonight, Les Dawson.
I'd hesitate to use the phrase Beauty and the Beast because he wasn't beastly by any stretch of the imagination. It was the glamour and the antidote to glamour. It was a good combination.
Just give up, it's not worthwhile, there's nothing you can do. The other day I forced a smile and cracked my lips in two.
Just pretend you're bright and gay.
I don't believe a word I say.
Then I'll feel much worse.
The huge advantage was the stand-ups were cheap, because they didn't require sets, they didn't require other actors, they didn't require any acting, and they brought their own script. So suddenly one saw a lot of guys from the clubs on television, and then it seemed to grow and grow and grow.
The best combination I think there was with Les was with Shirley Bassey, who could be difficult. And he had a license to undermine her, and she loved it.
I told you to stay in the truck.
Your fan club just arrived. They parked the tandem.
That's what I love about your show. You're a laugh an hour, Shirley.
That's one more than you, pal. Les Dawson would never sell another vacuum cleaner. It was
was a time when variety was the spice of evening entertainment on television's 3 channels. Les had a 25-year career ahead and many more funny faces to share with us. He thought himself a musician, but he found many more ways to make us laugh. The first face is deadpan. He was a master of the short, pithy gag.
I remember the day I met Agnes so well. I was sat in my office, the curtains were drawn, but the rest of the furniture was real. Did you see anybody who took me overcoat? He said, I saw the man. I said, what did he look like? He said, ridiculous, the sleeves were too short. I was on the way out, he pointed to a bottle on the shelf. He said, do me a sample in there. I said, what, from down here?
He just had routines. One sticks in my mind. He was thirsty or something, and he went and knocked on the door of a house, and a woman comes out. I remember he said she had a face like a bag of chisels. And he said to her, do you think the woman next door would give me a glass of water? It's very sophisticated, you know what I mean?
I bought some bananas once, and when I peeled them, they were empty.
He's always outside the joke, looking in, laughing at its construction, sneering at it as he tells it. He never sort of does the one-liner and sells it and goes, this is the best joke I've got.
Good evening. Yes, our subject tonight is entertainment. A word formed from the Latin root enter, which means come in. Antainment, which means give us your money.
He's always outside the joke, which is why I think people misread the mother-in-law thing.
And the mother-in-law was a big thing for Les Dawson.
As soon as I heard the knock on the front door, I knew damn well it was her, because all the mice were throwing themselves on the traps.
I kept getting this hideous recurrent nightmare that I was an old sports car and the wife's mother had a foot on my throttle. I wouldn't say the mother-in-law's got a big mouth, but she can eat a banana sideways.
Maybe 90% of them were very, very clever jokes. They weren't laughing at the mother-in-law. They were, again, wordplay and imagery, things like the mice threw themselves on the traps. And my favourite Les Dawson joke was about him, it was at the pub and there were 6 blokes punching the mother-in-law.
One of my neighbours said, "Are you going to help?" I said, "No, 6 of them should be enough."
A politically incorrect joke now, if you like, but still very funny.
I've got one decent photograph of that woman. It must have been taken with a high-speed camera because the only one of her had her mouth shut.
Do you think you spend rather too much time upsetting women with your mother-in-law jokes?
No, I get on very well with the wife's mother. Fabulous. We always go to Ireland to see her. She lives in Birmingham, but she lives better from Ireland.
Do you find, though, that there are lots of mother-in-laws sort of coming up to you saying, hey, you're giving us a bad name, you're ruining us?
Nonsense, no. I really take it in good part, because every time my show comes down the box, everybody's sat in front of the sets in case somebody switches it on.
Normal, functioning human beings can pick up when there's nastiness at the core. The reason Les Dawson is loved is because it was never malicious. There was no misogyny. Yes, it's uncomfortable for 80s feminists that it piggybacks some traditional misogynistic views. But again, his ironic way of laughing at his own material and his telling of it kind of undercuts it.
He's fighting upwards, so it's actually an authority figure. The gender's irrelevant. It's like any comedy now. Any comedy is often a fight against an authority figure, whether you're mocking the police or mocking the government or mocking anybody that's supposedly above you. And that's what it boiled down to. It was what had evolved as an authority figure within society, within that level of society. They were fair game and fair target.
You don't have to be a nice guy to be a comedian, and there are plenty who aren't. But with Les Dawson, you don't need to know the biography. It's all there. You can tell he's a nice guy just by the way he stands on that stage.
I've just had some bad news. Tomorrow it's the mother-in-law's funeral. And she's cancelled it.
I think it's a compliment, really, because, you know, obviously, I think if you make fun of somebody in public, it's usually a tribute to them. And I remember when his mother-in-law did die, he stopped, and his first wife sadly died. He stopped doing wife jokes and mother-in-law jokes.
The wife and I stood at the altar. The vicar looked at the size of the wife. He looked at me. He said, "Do you take this woman, or will you have her delivered?"
And he got all these letters from the BBC saying, why don't you, all the mother-in-laws were writing up, why don't you do the jokes anymore about us, Les? We like them, And I think it's, even now, when I meet people, they go, oh, gosh, he was a master of the mother-in-law jokes.
If that wasn't bad enough, after 15 years of complete bliss, the wife ran away with the fella next door. Oh, and I do miss him.
that people love Les Dawson's one-liners, he personally loved the long, rambling monologues, full of florid language.
Loquacious lugubriousness in extremis, the one and only Mr. Les Dawson!
Firstly, I must apologise about my appearance. Owing to a slight financial hiatus, I could not afford a ticket to travel here tonight by steam locomotion. I had to walk it. A journey, my friends, best described as a stroll around the very perimeter of Hades itself. Fingers of cold mountain mist curled in treachery around my stout Gannick's gaiters. As I toiled heavily across the bleak plateau of the mountain range. A sullen, biting wind blew the snow flurries into a maddened fandango of white flake fury.
Les had a hard time in the clubs because he was doing a very subtle act and relying on the audience trusting him all the way to the punchline. And all the other pros said, no, don't give up, you're the only one doing this. Because they knew that the moment he hit telly properly, the camera would just focus on that and the audience would be able to concentrate on the lines, the words. And it was TV then that made him.
Crying sanctuary through cracked lips, I lurched forward and banged painfully on the door. The door opened to reveal the most enchanting little girl that I've ever seen.
If you look at his poetic jokes, if you like, so a long poetic thing, very, very clever, obviously very intelligent man, weaving words and then just undercut, completely undercut. There was his great joke about, I looked up at the sky and it looked like black velvet, carelessly strewn with glitter. And then I thought, I must put a roof on this lavatory. So undercut with a pretty, I mean, very funny and very well delivered, but it was almost like, I'm sorry for being that clever.
I railed inwardly at the perfidy of parents who could abandon such a delightful waif. Leave this child alone in such a small, cramped, gloomy house, in the teeth of a ferocious storm, in this midst of desolation. I could contain myself no longer. Sinking to my knees, I grasped the child to my snow-powdered cape. I said, fear not, my child, elfin creature of pure delight.
This permission to be outside your own material and to do a face that throws away the joke, that was quite cutting edge, really, to be that laid back and to not care about your punchline but care about it, if you know what I mean. That, to me, is like quite edgy stuff, technique-wise.
Fear not, for you are no longer alone. And she grasped her rag dolly very close to her little pinafore and she said, it's not the house, it's the laboratory.
In television terms, he came right through the glass and people at home really, really related to him because he was genuine, he looked genuine. And of course his brand of humour was completely unique. It was Les humour. He wasn't doing the jokes like you would have, like the comedians at that time would do jokes. Fantastic, but you know, each comic could do another comic's jokes. Nobody could do Les. Les' routine was totally and utterly original.
Snappy one-liners, long rambling monologues. As a stand-up, Les Dawson was in constant demand as a guest. But within a year of appearing on Opportunity Knocks, he had his own show on ITV. Says Les. Les loved the glamour of a smart dinner jacket in a spotlight, but television expected more in its variety shows. It wanted sketches. So our next face of Les Dawson is in costume, playing dramatic scenes with actors.
You see Dave Allen and he's very happy sitting on his stool telling stories and jokes, and that's what he does. And you see Les Dawson, he's at the piano or he's just doing his stand-up, and then because suddenly it's half an hour or BBC 45 minutes, whatever, with a few songs, you have to pad it out with sketches, and they will sometimes be of varying quality. He wasn't a brilliant comic actor, that's all right, neither was Peter Cook.
The sketches shone a harsh light on Les. Guest stars like David Jason were a welcome distraction.
Thripson, what do you call this?
It appears to be one of our tiger cubs, sir. Indian tiger cub, that one, sir, yes.
I think we both agree that it's not its normal frisky self this morning.
Yes, sir.
And we both know why that is, don't we, Thripson?
Yes, sir. It's been stuffed, sir.
Exactly. Who stuffed it?
I did, sir.
Thripson, how long have you worked as a keeper at this zoo?
4.5 weeks, sir.
And during that time, you've managed to stuff 19 lions, 8 leopards, 45 Maasai giraffes, 24 New World monkeys, a Polynesian hermit crab, and a hippopotamus. Why, Thripson?
I want to be a taxidermist, sir.
In Les's autobiographies, he acknowledges the varying quality of Says Les and the Dawson Watch. Like he says, the press slated us, and looking back, they were probably right to. But there are some moments of brilliance that are within them.
Good morning, I hope I haven't kept you waiting.
No, I've only just arrived.
Ah, good. Now, you're Mr. Fibsby, and you've come about the job in accountancy.
That's right, Fibsby with 2 P's, yes I have. Yes I have indeed.
I took to him and he took to me. I think we liked each other instinctively, but I think we were also fascinated that we came from such different traditions.
Oh, I see we're going to get on. Now, help yourself to a cup of coffee.
There are 3 cups.
That's right, and one of them has got just the teensy-weeniest little pinch of cyanide in it. Come on, take a cup.
Which one's got the cyanide?
I don't know, do I? I mean, it's spoil the fun. Come on, don't be a scaredy cat. Right, then.
Tell me, is there much cyanide in the coffee?
No, just a pinch. Mind you, it's enough to kill 150 elephants now.
Let's not forget, it's a very, very odd pairing. I mean, thinking about it now, it's an odd pairing, but at the time, that was post-Monty Python for Cleese and pre-Fawlty Towers, and that's the only thing he did in between, was Les Dawson's show. And he was excited about it. Cleese was excited about it because he was like, this is just ridiculous. This is so different. And how can that not be interesting? And the same for Dawson. Whereas Dawson was saying, well, we're physically different, which of course was something they played on a lot.
I was fascinated because he had a wonderful vocabulary, as you know. He was extremely articulate, a very wide and rich vocabulary of slightly unusual words. And I think he was intrigued by me coming from a sort of Cambridge background and being a bit logical and a bit analytical about stuff.
Dawson? Sir! I want you to go through the boggy morass over there and take a message to HQ.
The boggy morass, sir? You're sending me to certain death.
This is a very important message, Dawson. It's got to get through.
Yes, sir. What's the message, sir?
The message is as follows. Am on my own now, have just lost Dawson in the boggy morass.
Stand-up is quite separate from sketches, and it's quite possible for one person to be very good at one and not very good at the other. But you can learn the other. And in my case, I came from the Footlights, where I did a couple of monologues, but almost everything I did in the Footlights and subsequently was sketches, 2-handers and 3-handers, in which you played characters. You didn't play yourself.
Oh, Della. Have you got any dirty books?
Yeah, what you want?
And it was very pleasurable. I remember the atmosphere being more relaxed than it ever seemed to be in London.
It's the waiting that drives you mad, you know that, Dawson? Mad, waiting, always
was waiting. It's training me.
Do you hear me, Dawson?
Dad! Oh, it's waiting. I can't stand it. I can't stand it anymore. I can't do it. Carry on, Dawson.
Yes, sir. It's the waiting that gets you down. It gets hold of you. And it drives you insane.
Comedy situations and dialogue are a long way from the funny man in a spotlight on a club stage, and they gave Les the chance to develop regular characters who would come back time and again, many of them inspired by his own comedy heroes from the 40s and 50s.
Here, mate, you got a spare cigar?
Yes, thank you.
Says Les ran for 11 series on ITV before Les accepted an offer to transfer to the BBC. He had developed favourite characters who ran for years, transferring with him to the Les Dawson Show. Cosmo's small piece was, for modern tastes, controversial. A lecherous individual whose lustful excesses could be triggered by the slightest innuendo.
Oh.
I'm asking the average man in the street what you know about coupling rods, distributor shafts and big ends. And cams.
Ooh, coming knickers.
And rear chassis.
Rear chassis, bounce up and down. Ooh, boom, jelly on a plate. Come here. No, don't leave me.
He justified it to the end. He said he had a rule that Cosmo, for all his lecturing and leering, must never, ever touch a girl. That there must never be physical contact.
My studio guest this evening is the very lovely Miss Vanderdelmar, the Swedish smouldering sex symbol, the star of the recent hit movie, A Prank in the Sauna Bath. Good evening.
Hello, darling.
Question that most viewers would like to ask you, so would I.
That's all you. You're stacked. What a bit of rumpo.
It's almost not even politically incorrect because it's just ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous, and that's why. And that's why it's funny. It's never funny because of the sexual connotations. That's not what's funny about it at all. It's funny because he's such a ridiculous, ludicrous man.
Les needed writers to create the volume of material demanded by weekly shows. As time went by, he centred on one or two, and they tuned into his style of comedy.
It's a tricky business, this acupuncture.
Television soaks up material. If probably, in the way past, somebody could get an act together in the theatre and they could do the same act every night for about 2 years. Television like that, every time you go on television, you want new material. If you were putting 6 half-hour shows on, 3 hours comedy, you need help writing, and this is where your script writer comes in.
Oh, I must get it right. Must get it right.
I think I did about 2/3 of it, and Les did the rest. So still, it's just a lot of. I had a lot more time to do it than Les did. That was my job to write it.
His best remembered characters are Sissy and Ada, which he performed in partnership with Roy Barraclough. They were perfectly drawn caricatures of a certain kind of northern woman.
I used to love doing Sissy and Ada because I knew people like that. I was virtually the same age as Les, and although he grew up in Collyhurst in Manchester, and I grew up in a small town on the Derbyshire-Cheshire border, it was a mill town, and they were the same characters, and it was easy for me to write them, and I enjoyed doing it.
You can't take you anywhere. I nearly had a flush.
Oh, I say, Ada, the magic of travel. Ada, look at all these lovely places. New Guinea, New Jersey, New York, New Zealand. Where do you want to go, Chuck?
New Brighton. We've gone there for 22 years to Elsie Gartsides. She keeps a lovely table. She doesn't charge extra for the cruet. We always use the Mycene tureen for the soup. She's spotless. She changes the beds every day.
She's had new oilcloth put down in the lobby. And on the landing, she's got it all done now in that beautiful anaglypta in burnt sienna. And in the dining room near those pop mallards she got from that shop in Bognor, there's a beautiful mural on the wall. The death of Lysander in Dulux.
I really don't know why I waste my time with you, Ada. I really don't.
Of course, Roy had played Dame for donkey's years, so he got that female thing. But Les's hero was Norman Evans.
Who threw that through my window there? Lee Schofield? I'll bet you're real.
And of course, Norman was always a dame over the garden wall. His character was a dame. So if you look at Sissy and Ada, you're actually looking at Les doing Norman Evans in a very strange way.
Well, I haven't been well myself, you know, because... Have you? Do you mean,
The mouthing, they call it. It's the way women talked years and years ago, and it stemmed from when they worked in the cotton mills, and they couldn't hear themselves talk above the noise of the looms, so they mouthed everything like that. And this sort of spread into the general conversation, and they used it when they wanted to talk about taboo subjects like you know, women's trouble and things.
Woman's trouble. Well, I went to see him in court, and that's when I really... I'm in his own.
At the time, he made that his own, and to the point where Sissy and Ada is synonymous with Les Dawson now. It is. It's not Norman Evans, but that is certainly where the roots come, and Roy Barrowclough and Les both acknowledge that very openly.
Tell me something, Joe. When you went to Blackpool for your honeymoon, were you... This is girl talk, really. Were you Virgo intact?
No, it's just bed and breakfast.
We've seen how Les Dawson was a master of one-liners and of long poetic stories. We've seen how he learned to write funny dialogue with other writers and create characters audiences love. But there was something about Les that was just funny. He was a master of gurning faces and physical comedy. He could make an audience laugh without speaking at all.
He's just got the iconic face. He's the seaside postcard face before you realise the seaside postcards come first. I think some of us younger people did muddle him up with John Prescott for a while.
He's a great wordsmith, but he also loved visual humour, physical humour. The writers who worked with him most loved the fact that he was fearless and would do anything they gave him. And there was no health and safety trouble with Les.
He was a surprisingly agile man. He had been a fit lad. He'd been able to box and he'd been in the army and things like that. So he was a person who'd just slightly overgrown his body as he got older. He's not a bad-looking bloke, you know. He's actually got a bit of the Orson Welles about him.
I can't, he's got it! Oh, but try the Billy Two Rivers method.
All right.
Oh, very good dwarf ace test.
I refuse to be known by that ridiculous non-plume. I wish to be known as Dastardly Dawson, the diabolical death machine.
That is lesson number 2. Never turn your back on the masher.
Oh, that's...
You're not going to stand for that, are you?
Certainly not.
Les worked for years with Mo Morland, known in the variety circuit as the Mighty Atom.
It was just a name that came to my mother. You know, she just said, we'll call you the Mighty Atom, that's better. That was even before the atomic bomb was thought of, I think.
Mo's rotund stature belied the fact that she was an excellent tap dancer, and that gave Les the idea for a visual gag that would run and run.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about now to introduce this monstrous cannonade, and she will soar through the air like an eaglet.
Les came in one day and said to me, Mo, I've got this idea. I want 5 or 6 girls all like you. I said, well, you'll be lucky. At first it was suggested that we would just be big ladies that would just stand around and look pretty and be laughed at. And Les said, no way.
Tell me this illusion. I'm starting on the hop. I only want one.
I was about 14.5 stone then. If you can get tap dancers at 14.5 stone to join me, by all means.
And he did.
No show is ever complete without Legos!
The Roly Polys became a regular feature of the Les Dawson Show. But times were changing, and the days of peak-time variety shows on television were numbered. A new wave of comedy had followed a new wave of music, and the older generation of variety comics were fading from the screens.
Comedy in the 80s was sort of polarised between the sort of alternative comedians, Alexi Sale, Ben Elton, and the comic strip and all that lot, and mainstream guys who sort of got stereotyped as these old farts with wigs who played golf with each other. And there was some collateral damage there. Jimmy Tarbuck might have been unfairly treated. Bob Monkhouse probably was. Jim Davison, we won't weep over. But Les Dawson is sort of apart from that. He was one of those mainstream comedians like Billy Connolly and Victoria Wood and Tommy Cooper and Eric Morecambe. You didn't care. It didn't matter that he was mainstream. Because what they all have in common is they were brilliant.
Sugar Albert, after that eventful first round, how do you see the fight?
Just! I wanted to make a tart. I like to make a tart. I like tarts. I like big tarts. Big juicy tarts.
I'm friends with the son of one of these comedians from this generation, and they sort of change jokes. It's like, oh, do you want my joke about the bear in the woods? Oh, great, I'll have your one about the immigrant in the pub, and they'll swap them on different nights. Whereas I can't swap the joke about my dad in Southend with anyone because it's personal to me. So I suppose it's become more biographical, less pressure on a punchline. You can leave a gap on purpose and laugh about the gap. But there still is, for all our disappearing up our own orifices, there's still a lead up, a gap, and then a laugh at the end. Even if that laugh is at the absence or at the breaking down of the Thatcher government, it's still da-dum-da-dum-da-dum laugh. I know we'd like to pretend it's not because we're so superior to the one-liner comedians, apparently, but I believe it's still dun-dun-dun laugh. And if it's dun-dun-dun without a laugh, you won't be doing comedy very long.
Les described alternative comedy as being comedy that didn't get laughs. That was alternative. And of course, there became that period of time when there was quite a few politically orientated comics and people that did observational comedy and people that used the word comedian but refused to do a joke. refuse to do something that was obviously a joke, and it would be an observational thing. It was a whole new style that began. It took a long time to get a grip. While it was getting a grip, of course, all the great comics of that time were finding it very difficult to get on television.
And I can remember Les saying to me once, he said, life in the clubs was so hard. Those audiences were so tough and could be so brutal. He said, if I no longer was required to work in television, he said, I would never go back to the clubs. It was that hard.
There certainly is no business like show business.
Like all traditional black-tie comedians, Les Dawson was facing tough career choices.
Stand-ups have a shelf life, and then, you know, you have your own show if you're lucky and it's all super-duper, and then either you turn out to be good at doing game shows or not.
May I just say one thing? When I first heard I was coming on this show, a feeling came over me I've never experienced before.
Les had good reason to be concerned about taking on a commitment like blankety blank. He knew game shows had finished the careers of other comedians.
So Les was very aware that he could be inheriting a poisoned chalice because the previous host had been so well liked. So Charlie Williams, when he went into the Golden Shot, didn't do well at all. He was very much slated in the press. The audience were switching off in their droves. So Les felt, well, Terry Wogan had been so successful and so synonymous with blankety blank that if he then took that over, he wouldn't be accepted. And with hindsight, what we see is that Charlie Williams just wasn't able to do it. He wasn't up to the job. He was very good at doing his club set and doing his jokes, but when it came to interacting with the general public, he just couldn't do it. He was out of his depth. He couldn't improvise and think on his feet. So that's why it failed.
It would be a professional risk. Meanwhile, at home near Blackpool, Les's wife Meg was seriously ill. A BBC executive offered a solution that would keep Les by her bedside.
I think it was Jim Moyer said, well, why don't you go and do blankety blank, because you can do 2 shows in a weekend with no rehearsal. You just turn up, do it, then you go back to Lytham and go back to Meg and the family.
And here's your host star, Les Dawson.
For any viewers, wherever they lay, who may be watching this debacle tonight, please don't fiddle with your controls on the set. Just because Terry Wogan isn't here doesn't mean your set's broke. So all I can say is I shall do my best, Terry, to keep this show on the high level of asininity that you created. What can one say except...
It was just a really funny comedy show. It wasn't like watching a quiz show at all. It was half an hour of Les Dawson absolutely in his element. It was perfect for that kind of curmudgeonly, long-suffering clown that he'd developed over the years.
Who we got on with this tonight? We have Roy Walker, ladies and gentlemen, an Irish comedian whose delivery is slower than a boycott innings. This lad loves a joke, and one day he's going to tell one. Janet Brown. Now, when Janet's on this show, she comes on many times. She doesn't do a lot, but what she does is inadequate.
On blankety blank, all the people that were in the panel, every one of them, no matter who you put in the panel, actresses, doesn't matter who you put in, they all loved him. I mean, and that makes a big difference. So Les could play with these people and be not rude to them, but be off with them comedically. And of course, they would just simply laugh because they loved him so much.
I used to fight like Cooper, Gladys. I'll tell you one thing, you've been an asset to this show. You could brighten it by leaving it.
You do for that outfit what Nora Batty does for tights.
Ken Dodd, who proves his life after teeth.
He's undermining that show the whole time, but not in such a way that you think, well, why are we watching then? You have to watch because he has that very, very charming anti-charm that you can't take your eyes off.
Jeff, you're not going away empty-handed because the BBC's not like any other company. No, by Jimmy, because we don't believe in people going away empty-handed.
checking with you. I'd like to my checkbook and pen. Come on, Rice, what have you got?
Never used to be like this with Terry.
And never used to be like this with
Blankety Blank was a huge success for Les. But behind the scenes, the Dawson family was in crisis. In April 1986, his wife and inspiration, Meg, passed away.
When Meg went, he went to ground in a big way because his support had gone, his honest support had gone, and we were all very worried about Les because he did suffer very, very badly. And then Tracy came along, you know, and it was obvious to anybody that knew Les that Tracy was just absolutely fantastic. She didn't try and top Meg, she'd become a new sort of support.
He was very much a family man and wanted to be married, and he loved the family life and to be at home, the stability of home. And I think Meg was obviously very important in Les's life because she helped his career with opportunity knocks, and she sort of kept his feet on the ground. And obviously, when Les met me, we fell in love, and I just said, why didn't you meet? Why didn't you marry an actress or a dancer? He said, well, no, because I wanted to keep my feet on the ground. So I think because of similar backgrounds, really.
Les lifted himself from the shadows and married Tracy. They had a daughter 3 years later. He was happier than he had been for years.
I don't think there was a lot of difference between the Les Dawson on stage and the Les Dawson at home because he sort of took everybody under his wing. You know, if he did the theatres and then he would meet up with the fans later, he would just say, come on, all come into the bar and have a drink with me. Why are you standing out in the cold? And he just treated everybody the same, really, which I thought was a lovely quality. He'd say, come on, Pooh, because my nickname is Pooh, let's go and have a ride into Blackpool, or we'd have a ride into the country. And he would pick ideas up, you know, or we'd go and have a coffee somewhere, or walk around in Blackpool, and an idea would come. And then he said, right, let's get back. He always had a notebook in his pocket and a pen, and I always wrote ideas down.
Throughout his life, Les Dawson, lover of words and master of the variety stage, found many ways to make us laugh. But he will be best remembered for a trick he claims rescued him as a rookie in the working man's clubs. It was a guaranteed showstopper, his signature routine. Everyone knew the punchline, but a Les Dawson appearance was incomplete without it.
The audience demanded it in the end. I mean, if Les didn't play the piano, if I saw this happen on many, many occasions, he'd be working front cloth, you know, and then the curtains would open and there would be the grand piano, right? And the audience would just applaud at the piano because they knew what was coming. You know, the audience demanded that. I mean, you know, you wind the clock back to when Les first started doing that, and it was really dealing with rude northern audiences who weren't going to sit and listen to his banter and his patter, his jokes. All they wanted to do was have a few jars and sing. So he thought, fine, you want to sing, you sing.
Now, come on, let's hear you now. Let's raise the roof. It won't take much doing, the guttering's on the inside. Are you ready?
He made everything look effortless. He'd sat down and worked out, right, which are the right, wrong notes.
It's quite easy to play the piano badly and not be funny, as any music teacher will tell you. But to play the piano badly and be always hilarious is, well, firstly, you need to know what you're doing, and secondly, you need to be funny. And he was. I mean, just the timing of the way he, and the whole persona of the way he's sitting on that stool and looking at the audience and on the kind of cheesy grin.
Anybody else trying to do that with a piano would turn it into a joke. If you look at Les playing the piano, he believes every note he isn't playing. It's completely, totally believable that he thinks he's doing it right.
He played piano every day at home and played classical and jazz, and always went through the off-key piano playing at home as well, which was nice. He would start off quite serious on the piano before lunch, and then he would play jazz, and then he would do the off-key piano playing, so we'd know then he was at the end, really.
Les knew how to get the most from a piano. But he never forgot that before he was famous, he thought his fortune lay as a singer first and comedian second.
I saw a clip of him doing singing Feelings, and he starts to sing, Feelings,
teardrops, they're rolling down on my...
Sort of thinking, is this for real? Because he's an okay singer.
Trying to forget my feelings of love.
And then, of course, he's going, Feelings! You know it's coming, but it's all the more joyful because you know it's coming.
Les had always enjoyed smoking and drinking, but a lifetime of premature celebration was taking its toll and his health was failing. It was time to take things easy and indulge his passions in some unexpected ways.
He was an amazing writer. I mean, we all know he was a fantastic performer and etc, etc, etc. But my official word would be he was an amazing writer because that's how he wanted to be remembered. And I think he gave enough to warrant being remembered for what he wanted to be remembered for.
We have a wonderful collection of books in the library, and he would read them over and over again. And the toilets, 4 toilets, and they're all full of books. And if he ever wanted some quiet time if all the family were home, he'd usually lock himself in his other study, he'd call it, would be the loo, and read books.
I could imagine him going out with a television camera, you know what I mean, going to some interesting, I don't know, castle or something like that and talking about it. You know, so doing something to do with history. Anything that he was interested in, because he could bring his humour with him. So I would have thought he could have done almost everything except probably straight acting.
But he did. He played Nona, a woman, in an adaptation of an Argentinian absurd drama.
How are you, Nanita?
Hungry.
Hungry? On a day like this?
Always hungry.
Well, that's my Nanita. There's always something for you to eat, isn't there? Some nice little morsel. Nice salad you have there, Nonna?
See, peppers, sweet corn, excellento.
Wait a minute. Where are the flowers gone?
You got vinegar?
In the salad?
Everything in the salad.
You put Auntie's flowers in the salad? The flowers for the dead? Can this...
Oh, you do this, come on!
You've gone too far this time!
And Les appeared in D-Mob with Griff Rhys-Jones and Martin Clunes.
Thank you. That's very decent of you,
Daisy, Ian.
Daisy Ian, yes. And what have we here?
Oh, Morton, Mr. Stanley, this is Hedda Kennedy.
Charmed, my petite Nama. Tell me, did you witness the debacle?
They did their best.
Oh, yes, we all have to start somewhere. Never say die.
He was a stand-up comedian, but, you know, he changed direction, really, doing the serious side of acting, and he absolutely loved that. He said he would have worked for nothing, because he just loved that side of it.
No, stop! Stop the rehearsal. Get off the stage. Go and rest your bunions. Go on, get off.
I bet he's got a wealth of stories.
Let's hope he doesn't tell us any.
Well, that was bloody awful.
Well, do it again then.
No. What did they expect for one on the kick? The bloody Bolshoi, eh? Paul?
Here you are, Mr. Stanley. Deasy and Dobson have arrived.
Bailiffs?
No.
The icebreakers.
Oh, 2 for the murder slot. Where are you? Come on, where are you skulking, you coward? Show yourselves.
The winner is
Les Dawson.
In 1992, Les's career was finally recognised in the British Comedy Awards.
It's about bloody time I won something. Well, let's face it, I've been in this business so long, I can remember when the Archers only had an allotment.
But within a year, Les Dawson had passed away.
The mother-in-law came last week to stay with us. As soon as she walked down the street, I knew it was her because next door Savage Alsatian was with a high-potency fertility pill. My bird said they taste of peppermint. You see, you can sit there and smirk, but you don't know what life is. You see, life seems to be a matter of choice. If you're lucky, I'm not lucky. Dame Fortune has never once ever smiled at me.
I was with Les when he died, and he was at a hospital in Manchester, and he was having a routine checkup for insurance because he was doing another film with Griffiths Jones, and he had to have this checkup and had a massive heart attack just after they were waiting for the results.
I was amazed when I heard about Les's death. It was on the radio, I heard it, and I what? And it was just one of these landmark things in the history of show business, where you go, wow, suddenly there's no Les.
There were so many other comedians. There were lots like Arthur Askey, and Norman Vaughan, and people you saw all the time. But Les, I thought, was a division better than them because he was more imaginative and his use of words was so much more interesting.
Comedy changes so much. There are the comics, the very few, and you could count on your hands, are the ones that can continue on through the years and still be number one in their trade. And I think Les was one of them.
He was up there right with the very top, Les was.
People still know his name, and people still talk about him. I mean, that is wonderful.
Even people who weren't born when he died
I'd put him up there with Tommy Cooper and Eric Morecambe as a great mainstream British television comedian. I think he was properly great.
It's still sort of a glow, really, that Les is still alive.
They say that laughter's infectious.
Yeah, well, I think he's found a cure.
From the News Quiz to the Now Show and Dead Ringers, full-on satirical fun with Friday night comedy from Radio 4. Listen now on BBC Sound.
That's how it should be done. You've got to play it with feeling.